Power is pure psychology. Pure psychology. You want to feel that you have a degree of control over events in your life, over people, over your future. In this world, if you're replaceable, you will be replaced. Absolute power corrupts, but absolute powerless corrupts even more. There's a reason why we're narcissists. I'm giving you some very evil Machiavellian advice out there if you have enemies. Power is a feeling, it's an essence, it's an emotion. It's a human need and desire. And really, what power is a sense of understanding yourself and being able to control yourself. I like to look at it not through the lens of great power politics, but as an average, everyday human being here in the United States or in England. The feeling that you have with your children, with your spouse, with your colleagues, the people who work for you, the sense that you have no control, that you can't influence them with your ideas, that you can't get them to maybe, soften some of their ugly behavior if they have that you can't get them interested in helping you with a project or whatever, is the most miserable feeling a human being can have. Malcolm X had a quote that I love, which is, absolute power corrupts, but absolute powerless corrupts even more. The feeling of powerlessness is actually more corrupting than the feeling of having a lot of power. It turns people into being passive aggressive, into playing all kinds of weird games, negative games to get power. You want to feel that you have a degree of control over events in your life, over people, over your future. And that to me is what power is. And so the sense that I'm not helpless in this world. You just need to know these things so that when you enter the work world, you're not naive, you're not stupid, you don't make the same kind of mistakes that I made. You spare yourself the pain. You understand the most fundamental thing about human nature. People have egos. Even your boss has an ego. You think he or she doesn't because they're powerful. They're even more insecure than other people. You need to be aware of these things so that you don't inadvertently make them feel insecure and suffer the consequences. If you can't control yourself, then you're in a lot of trouble in this world. If you can't control yourself, how can you control anything in your environment? How can you be a leader, right? So you have to learn certain things about your nature, about who you are, and not just be anybody. You have to kind of tailor your appearances as well. And appearances matter. It's the animal part of our nature. We judge people by how they appear, how they dress, their tone of voice, their body language, etc., etc. It would be, in an ideal world, we wouldn't judge people by appearances. We would just judge them by what's inside of them. Yes, I agree with that. But that we're not ideal. We're not descended from angels. We're descended from primates. So you have to understand that appearances matter. And this is part of the game. And so you have to control your appearances a little bit. You have to tailor it. You have to be a bit of actor in this world, on and on and on. And one of the worst things that people do is you're out in the work world and you need to hire somebody. You need to find a colleague. You need to find a partner or an employee. Your mind naturally gravitates towards a friend, right? Because they know you, you trust them, you have a relationship, and you feel comfortable with them. And it's a terrible mistake. So many of the worst things that have happened in history are because of that very problem. Because friends, there's all these emotions involved between people, right? And those emotions confuse the issue. So what I'm talking about in that law is when you need to get results, you need to think, when you have a job or something, you have to think in practical terms, not in terms of emotions, not in terms of friendship, et cetera, et cetera. So you want to keep your work world separate. It's not everything about life is having to be friends and having nice things and everybody like you. Sometimes what matters is getting results done. And sometimes the best person to work with isn't your friend because they don't have all this other stuff that we're talking about. In fact, a very powerful move is if there's an enemy out there, somebody who you never got along with, if you approach them and say, let's bury the hatchet, I have a job and I'd really like you to work with me. I know you're really smart. The turnaround of emotions is a very powerful thing where they're going, wow, yeah, sure, that's great. I never expected that. And they're highly motivated to now prove that they're worthy of your change of mind. So it's not about not trusting your friends in the realm of friendship in personal relationships. It's about being aware that the work world is different from the realm of personal relationships. We all have this idea, like in the Laws of Human Nature, I write about irrationality, envy, aggression, or narcissism. Narcissism is a good one. Oh, they're a narcissist. I'm not a narcissist. I'm not self-absorbed, but they are. Yeah. I don't have any of those traits. Every single human being has self-absorption traits. We can't help it. We naturally think of ourselves first. Yes, there are people who are much deeper narcissists in life, no doubt, and there are toxic narcissists, but we all have a touch of it. I want you to be a little more humble in this world and not be so arrogant and not think that you are somehow exempt from having a dark side, that somehow you were born with a halo over your head, that you were born different, you don't have human nature, that you're a saintly person, you're much better. Get rid of your moral superiority, because I find that deeply offensive. The only way to change yourself is to be aware that you have these issues. But if you go around in life thinking, I don't have any of these problems, I'm not a narcissist, you're never going to have the awareness to stop the fact that you are actually one. With narcissism, for instance, there's a reason why we're narcissists. So when your parents have to kind of not abandon you, but have to not give you as much attention as you used to have, and you're 3 years old or 4 years old, you don't remember it, but it was very painful. Like, oh, they don't love me as much. What's wrong with me, right? I have to get that love and attention, not just naturally. I have to do things to earn it, etc. And what happens with a lot of people in that situation when you're a child is, I have to develop I have to be my own mother or father. I have to find a way of loving myself. When something bad happens, I have to retreat inward and go, I'm really not so bad at all. I'm actually a decent person. I like my own tastes. I like the clothes that I wear, etc., etc. You're developing the shreds of self-esteem. And people who never develop that because they were abused or they were abandoned or even if they were suffocated, never develop that self-esteem. And so what happens in life is if you don't develop that and you get older and people attack you and yell at you or criticize you, you can't retreat inward to that self-esteem, that love you have. The only thing you know is to get angry, they call it narcissistic rage, and to yell at people and say, God, get away from me. You're evil, etc., etc., etc. And then the other problems evolve where the only way I don't have that inner self-esteem, the only way I can get people to love me is by being incredibly dramatic and overly dramatic, etc., 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 and always making myself the center of attention. That's what creates a deep narcissist. That's their only way of getting the love that they need. So children, we all need that degree of self-esteem, that anchor in our life. So narcissism, self-love, is not a bad thing. But what happens is as you get older, if you go too deep into it, it becomes a problem. And so what I say is you need to take that self-love and it has a good function and turn it outward as much you can and turn it into empathy and love and consideration for other people. That's your task as you get older in life. You can't run away from them. You can't run away from your shadow, your dark side. You can make it work for you. You can make it positive and productive and healthy. You can become a healthy narcissist. Power is pure psychology. Pure psychology. And what I mean by that is the CEO of a company, he doesn't get there based on, well, it's not like baseball where balls, you have a good batting average or OPS, All right, you're going to get in the lineup. They're going to bat you in the cleanup spot. Okay. Life isn't like that. It's not about metrics. It's not about things that they've actually done. It's about psychology, right? People rise to positions of power because they know how to play the game, and they know how to play the game of psychology. They know how to appear. They know how to play the optics. They know how to intimidate. They know how to say less than necessary. They know all the psychological little gambits. And that's why I wrote the 48 Laws of Power. It's kind of like, this is the game of life, the game of power. The rules are a little bit nebulous. But here's how you play. You play by mastering these little psychological bits. One of them is your reputation. So you have to, like, it's like a brand. You're known for something. You're known for being strong. You're known for being self-confident. You're known for being, and there's a certain kind of, shape to it. And if you're like all over the map and you're going over here, and your reputation is about that, it's about this, it looks weak. It makes it look like, because we want to feel like people judge on appearances. They don't judge on the reality of who you are. They don't know who I am or who you are. They judge on what they see and how we appear. And if those appearances, they want to have something consistent that they can grab onto. They want to say something simple. That guy is funny and that's who he is. This guy is that. They want a very simple formula. And if you can't be consistent, if you're all over the place, if you're changing your ideas, you're conservative, then you're liberal, blah, blah, and you're trying to tack with each wind to get power, yeah, you'll get some power that way, but it'll make you look weaselly. Mm-hmm. It'll make you look distrustful, and people won't like that. And your reputation will be one of somebody who has no soul, who has no core. So reputation also has to have a consistency, a core to it, a soul that binds it all together. On the other hand, if you're a very Machiavellian person, poke holes in your enemy's reputation and you will destroy them. Bring up things that are inconsistent with their reputation and you will have ruined, be like popping a balloon. It'll just go whoop, like that, And I talk about how in that chapter, how P.T. Barnum played that game to ruin other people's reputation and make people wonder, is he really like that? I guess not, because I just saw this fact that contradicts it. So I'm giving you some very evil Machiavellian advice out there if you have enemies. In this world, if you're replaceable, you will be replaced, right? So if in your job, you're in your 20s, and you're doing something that other people could do, by the time you become 28, they can hire somebody 24 when they hired you, but for less money. They will do that right away. It's a brutal world. So if you're replaceable, you will be replaced. So the only defense against that is to be irreplaceable in this world. And the good news is that you are at your core irreplaceable. There is something strange and weird about you. Once again, I hate to say it, but it's a chapter that I'm writing right now for my Sublime book. Okay, and I explain in Mastery where that comes from biologically, your DNA, how you are marked as a unique individual at birth. The combination of variants in your chromosomes, it's mathematically impossible for it to ever be replicated. Yes, the variations are marginal. The differences aren't great between you and me, but those little differences are the differences between me liking this kind of hip-hop music and you liking a different kind of hip-hop music, right? It creates your inclinations. It creates your tastes. And so what the game of life involves is knowing your uniqueness, is knowing who you are, is knowing what makes you weird and what makes you odd. Okay? And the problem is that we're social animals, and the pressure is to fit into a group, is to be like other people, to have their ideas, to have their values, to have their tastes, to dress like them. Okay? That happens when you're young, you're in your adolescence. We all go through that phase. I went through that phase. But if you keep on that track when you're in your 20s and on, which is happening a lot today through social media, you're going to lose that sense of what makes you odd and different. I compare it to a voice. When you're very young, that little voice in you is going, Robert, you should be a writer. It's telling you something, And as you get older, you don't hear it anymore because you're hearing all the other voices. You're hearing your voices of your parents, the teachers, the culture around you, your peers, your friends, telling you this is what's cool, this is what's not cool. And that little voice becomes completely drowned out. And so you don't know who you are anymore. And you're afraid, particularly young people today. I mean, maybe it's always been that way, are so afraid of being different. They're so afraid of being odd. But look at all the powerful people in this world. Look at your Elon Musks. Look at your celebrities in entertainment. They're one of a kind. They have I hate that word, but it's like a brand. They're different. They stand out for something that's truly different. That's where your power lies. And you'll go, those are people that were brilliant, that were talented. I'm not like that. I don't have that. Well, bull. You do have that. It's just you're forgetting about it and you don't want to put the effort into it.